Wednesday, November 23rd, 2010. I'm Rim, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, Pac-Man.
Let's do this.
So, Scott, pop quiz. Was Davy Crockett a real person or not?
I'm leaning towards not.
Because we just had a discussion about this, and I feel the need to bring this up live. Because he is, in fact, a real person.
So Davy Crockett was real.
Yes.
When was he real? 18 what?
17 what? Well, through 18 what? He lived a while.
Wait, so he was not there for, say, the Civil War.
He was there for the Alamo.
Oh. But I thought that was just like, you know, the Alamo. I know the Alamo is definitely was definitely real.
Yeah, Pee-wee's bike was down there.
I know the Alamo was real, but I did not think that there was a, you know, the Davy Crockett part of the tale was real.
Yeah, there was Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier.
What was he actually like as opposed to what he was like in the fables?
There's a whole Wikipedia page about him. You can read it.
Was he actually awesome, or was he just, you know, fabled? Like, was he
seems-
someone who was talked up?
He seems fairly awesome, to be honest.
But how much of that is like fake history? I want to read like the Howard Zinn history of Davy Crockett.
It's just because a minute before the show, I was like, blah, 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 Davy Crockett, because we were looking for examples of, like, politicians from the boonies. And Scott's like, yeah, Davy Crockett wasn't real.
I'm pretty sure. I'm still not quite sure he was real.
You know, you have a computer. You could just look it up on Wikipedia. I couldn't have made an article this elaborate that quickly.
Someone else did. I mean, there's going to be a page about him whether he's real or not, right?
Yeah, but
I bet there's a page on Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, it probably says Paul Bunyan, mythological dude.
But Paul Bunyan was real. At least the blue cow was.
So the other weekend, Robert Koo was in the city, and he had a little meetup gathering that we went to, and it was pretty goddamn awesome. I will note for the listeners here that I removed a good 15 seconds of gum smacking.
So, Rim, you owe me like 25 cents.
Yeah, Captain, I'm going to chew gum right before we record an audio show.
Hey, I needed to chew some gum. It tasted good.
But anyway,
it's fake watermelon flavor.
It was fun primarily because it was the first time, I think, in my entire life where I've spoken to Robert Koo in any capacity other than in regards to like a specific issue at PAX.
He's
like
just
a professional work, like we got to deal with this thing.
He's just a normal guy, chilling.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. Scott has a reputation for being a hater now.
Yeah, whenever I meet anyone, they always seem to think either I hate them or I hate everything.
Do you ever wonder that maybe that is a defect of the womb?
I don't know. Do you think I hate everyone? Everything?
Well, you're a hater now.
Okay.
But the important part is the Koo Man had a bag full of this game called Bananagrams.
Yeah, the game itself comes in a bag, but
a
then
bag
he had
shaped like a banana.
He had a bag of bananas, so he basically had like a whole bunch of copies of this game.
He had a bag of bags of what are Scrabble tiles, and it's funny, we just did a stupid episode on word games, Boggle Boggle, and we didn't know about Bananagrams.
If only we had known, it would have been the perfect addition to that episode.
Suffice it to say, Bananagrams is basically real-time, directly competitive Scrabble, but everyone has their own board, and you're just fucking going for it.
It's awesome. I just played my coworker, and I crushed him. I was like, peel, 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 peel.
It has a nice intern. It's one of those games where it has its own terminology, and you kind of get used to it. Like, I'm gonna peel. Oh no, I'm a rotten banana.
Yeah, there's a bunch. It's all banana language, and it actually works out, right? It's like you peel to, you know, and there's a bunch, and when you win, you say bananas. And if you cheat and you have a word that's not a word, rotten banana.
Now, the rules are not necessarily perfect, so I feel like I have to write...
I think the rules are definitely perfect.
They're not perfect in one regard. They do not explicitly state that you should agree to a dictionary ahead of time.
It says use any available dictionary.
All right, I have a French dictionary with me.
All right.
So I can use French words now?
Not as long if they're in.
They're in that dictionary.
Are they in an available dictionary?
Yes, I have. In fact, I have a dictionary of some functions that I wrote in Java. I have Urban Dictionary. I have the OED. I have a dictionary I just wrote.
The thing is, it doesn't say use it. I think the language use any available dictionary means that you pick one dictionary.
But it does not say. So my suggestion...
That implies that you use one dictionary that is available. So whichever one it is that you pick is the only one.
All right, so I pick one and someone else picks another one. Now
No. Everyone has to use the one.
That's what I was saying. That if you want to play this game and your friends are assholes, a.k.a. they're like us, You have to agree to a dictionary ahead of time and get everyone to say okay. And don't even try to challenge words mid-game. It just doesn't work.
Well, the rules say that you shouldn't. They basically, the way it works is you don't, you can play the whole game and it doesn't matter, really, you don't check anyone's words during the game. And at the end of the game, when someone says they've won, you stop and you see if they've actually won. And if they haven't, they get the ultimate penalty.
Because the penalty for not having a full set of actual words at the end of the game is basically you lose and you're done and you have no chance of winning. You're the rotten banana.
Yeah, and so it's like instead of slightly punishing you along the way for putting out a bad word like Scrabble does, they just give you the ultimate punishment for having any words at all that are wrong at the very end, and that is you lose.
Which is fairly elegant because otherwise, if there were a challenge mechanic,
it would slow down the whole game, and you would, in the middle of the game, you'd have time to sit there and think, which would be unfair.
In fact,
I would a game where speed matters.
I would start challenging people just to get the time if I needed it. Like I got a new cue and I got to do something with it. I'd just be like, I challenge everyone's goddamn words.
I think though it would be pretty cool to play the game digitally, right? And there's two different ways to make it happen digitally. Obviously, you could just play it, straight up with like iPads or computers, and then it would just put big red blocks around any words that were invalid, so you would know in real time if your words were wrong, and no one would ever get anything wrong.
As an aside, this would be a good candidate for a game to get ported to Xbox Live.
Well, here's what I think they really want to do is take like the Kinect or something, or the Sony Eye camera, right, and have it look at a table full of tiles, right, and then it would look at the words, and it could basically, if you had some sort of light mechanism, it could shine lights on, so you could still play with the tiles on a table.
And off camera, I have all the tiles I need to make any word I want, and I just swap them in the whole game and cheat.
Oh, so you're cheating by having a second set of Bananagrams tiles?
Do you really think that wouldn't happen?
All right, but that's just that's at least that's not a flaw in the game though. That's you cheating.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, if you're going to play a game online where the rules are only enforced by the
technology.
technology...
I'm not saying online. I'm saying just as an aid to play in person.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd
be cool. Anyway, Bananagrams is not only awesome, but it's going to be like the hot sensation at PAX East.
It's definitely coming up big.
Mark my words, a lot of people are going to be playing this game.
I think it's gonna be like the next Apples to Apples, right? Right now, you can get Apples to Apples in like the Dwayne Reed. You're gonna see Bananagrams in the Dwayne Reed right next to the Scrabble and Monopoly within 6 months or so.
A word of warning, because Ku told us like what this game was all about, so we looked online. They make all these other games like Applegrams and such, and you know what?
Ignore that shit.
They all suck.
Only Bananagrams. Get the banana, ignore all other fruits, except Apples to Apples, which is, I don't think it's the same company.
There's no way.
But it is weird that there are a lot of fruit-themed games. I think we should
Wait, how is that weird? Why is fruit, eventually you have run
Renaissance Europe, war, Fantasyland with dragons and kniggets.
Trains. And fruit. Yeah, fruit's fine.
I think the next stop...
I note there's precedent, because as you may recall...
farms.
You may recall in Die Macher, or Die Macher...
Governments.
You can bet on the square tomatoes.
We need the vegetable game.
Oh, there was that game for the NES. Oh my God, what was it called? You were basically a cucumber, and it was like Shadowgate, and you went around, you met Percy the Parched Persimmon, and it was like it was like a puzzle-solving, crazy-ass game.
It was Princess Tomato.
Maybe that was it?
That was a side scroller.
No, then this is a different game.
I'm pretty sure.
I gotta figure out what this game was.
All right.
So yeah, Bananagrams.
All right. So gaming news. Gaming news is getting kind of light because there were.
What are you talking about? There's tons of stuff to talk about.
Oh, it seems like there was a bunch of holiday release action, and now it's just like, all right, everyone, go spend your goddamn money, right? And there's no real action gonna happen until after the holidays, and there's new releases again. Because if you were gonna release a holiday game, it better be out now, because Black Friday is 3 days. So all the holiday games are out. Today was Tuesday, the game release day. So instead of talking about game release, I'm going to talk about something else that happens every year, right? Maybe we'll move it to the meta moment for the remainder of the year. But the Child's Play has begun.
Child's Play. I got to go send some DSs or something.
Empty your wallets for the children's.
Empty. You know what? Bananagrams.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm going to send 2 copies of Bananagrams. I'm going to send a Bananagrams to every hospital in all the Child's Play.
Every hospital, that's not that much money.
Yeah,
I don't know how many hospitals they have now.
Oh, that's true. They might have had a ton of. I might not be able to afford it. So everybody, send 1 Bananagrams to the children's hospital.
Let's make this a thing.
Near you.
Let's make Bananagrams the gift. Let's just
Actually,
go all out.
The thing is, the bad games, Applegrams, and all those.
Oh yeah, they are better for
They're
kids.
better for the children's, even though you might not like them, right?
But
so also,
Bananagrams,
send them an apples to apples. Then all the children's will play together.
Bananagrams better for the smarter children's.
Definitely. There's some other good games. You could send the Settlers to the hospital. Why not? I'm sure there's like some teenage kid there who's like, "Oh man, Settlers in the hospital."
Oh, that's a bad. You realize that
blow his mind.
The precedent here is that some sad kid is gonna get Twilight Struggle.
Don't send Twilight Struggle to the hospitals. They actually have Amazon wish lists. You just pick it off the list, and So there you go.
So in non-child helping news, in fact, perhaps the opposite of this,
child killing news.
We haven't talked much about the fact that Farmville is getting a Cityville that is basically fake Sim City. But
there's already like 20 Farmvilles, right? There's the farm, and there's a city, and there's a frontier.
This stuff
thing,
is just getting off the hook.
And there's a fantasy. They got every theme they got it covered.
What I do want to talk about, because I realized something recently that scares me, is the Civilization Network, which is basically Civ 5 came out and is very popular, even though multiplayer is broken and I hate you guys. On that aside, the Civilization Network is basically, let's take Civ 5 and mash it up with Farmville and Facebook and make it shitty.
It's going to be terrible. They're basically slapping a Civ theme on a crappy game. Remember that? There was that game we played, what was that one? It was like you had a city and there were all the different buildings in it, and all you did was wait until for the time to elapse, and then you upgraded a building.
Sim Tower?
No, remember everyone was playing it for like a day or two, and then we're like, oh, fuck this game.
There was that one where we made Greek city-states.
Yeah, that was
that was the one.
Yeah, that's basically what this is going to be.
What amazes me, though, and here's the scary part. So it's a Facebook whatever game. Apparently, the guy who designed Civ 2 and Alpha Centauri, Brian Reynolds, he works for Zynga now.
How about that?
And my worry is that it's weird because I don't consider what we call social games to be in any way like in competition with actual games. Like they're
not even games.
They're a different class of entertainment. I don't know what to call it yet, but it kind of bothers me that that's what we're calling social games. I mean, to me, a social game is like Mafia.
Yeah.
Or any Mario game on,
any game that is multiplayer is thereby social.
I would argue not multiplayer games that don't involve player interaction. They can be social, but the socialness is not an obligatory component of them.
Here's the thing, right? Is it's tough because you think about something like a race, right? And it's like there's some races where it's just go as fast as you can, but then you look at something like Roll Through the Ages, which appears to have no interaction, but you can roll the pestilence and poison everybody, right? So there is a little bit, or like, NASCAR. You think everyone's just racing, or F1, everyone's just racing, but you can crash into somebody.
So what worries me, here are the reasons. I mean, we don't have any details about this game yet. So theoretically, it could be awesome. It could just be like what we want.
It's not going to be. It's going to be less complicated and less good than Civ Rev. That's guaranteed.
Well, Civ Rev was basically Baby Wants to Play Civ, the game.
Yes, this is going to be less than that, which means it's going to be.
But
really small Baby Wants to Play Civ.
There was a non-zero chance that maybe this was going to be a good game in some way. Maybe they're going to take advantage of the social nature of Facebook to make like 40-person, like everyone's got a civilization awesome. Here are the statements that make me believe that is the opposite of the truth. One, it is, quote, a fully persistent environment. So that means that there's no way it's actually a competitive game.
Yep.
Because then, I started first. My Civ has nukes, you have sticks.
Yep.
And two, free to play.
Yep.
Free to play is what DDO did. It's what every Korean model MMO is doing.
My only hope, right? And
also Facebook.
I think this is also the hope of, say, the people working on it, right? Is that, if they can, right now, let's say you're a Farmville person, right? So they get all these people to play Farmville. And some people just farm it up a little bit, but some people, they farm it up a lot, right? If there was a Farmville that was actually hardcore, right?
Even if it wasn't necessarily good by our standards,
right.
But if it was...
You're not graduating from Farmville to anything. You graduate from Farmville to more Farmville. They're
hoping,
hoping...
eventually to death.
The fact that this game is free tells me that they're hoping that they can get these people who are not gamers, right? Who have no interest in games, to graduate from Baby Civ, right? I think this is also why they made Civ Rev. They want people to graduate from that Civ up to the bigger Civ, and because it's if it's too difficult to make a game with a learning curve where you can start easy and get harder as you go on, the game it's Civ. It throws a lot at you right from the get go. Pick a science. What are you going to build in your city? Where are you going to move your warrior?
Rim's already got spearmen around your city.
Right. It throws a lot at you right from turn one. And even though turn one is a lot simpler than later turns, it's still a lot if you've never played games before, right? So instead of making Civ scale up from, baby Civ up in the same game, they're trying to make a separate game, and you can graduate up to the big boy game.
Now, what?
And that might work. I think that there are some people who might get hooked on the baby Civ, and then they're going to advertise for the real Civ in the baby Civ, and people will graduate.
Well, it's tough to say because it really depends on how they design the game. The crux of it is whether or not it is actually a game. Because if it is not a game at all, then this is kind of a false path where it's going to take people from things that aren't games to something that isn't a game that has the same name as something that is a game. And I think that's a less easy jump to make to the real game versus if this is a game, even if it's a very easy game. If there's actually something going on, that is my Obi-Wan. That this game is not great, but it has some sort of decision-making that actually matters and has some way to fail.
I think that what's going to happen, right, is even more likely is people will play the baby Civ and they'll graduate and then they won't like the big boy Civ.
But they might like Civ Revolutions.
Yeah, but Civ Rev is basically, it's sort of dead.
Yeah, but maybe they'll bring it back.
I don't think they
Maybe
will.
they'll put it on Facebook and you have to pay for it.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going to happen
Civ
here.
5 is going to be around for a while. These games usually last a few years.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's sort of a perpetual seller, too.
Even though I'm basically not playing any more Civ 5 until I have Pit Boss and can play by mail.
Yeah. They said that's it coming in the next big patch is the Pit Boss and all that stuff, so.
But anyway, things of the day. Daddy, two things of the day.
What? You can't do that.
Because I got to use a normal one, and I think this is really cool. You might have seen it on Kotaku, but it's a cute little song that tells you how to draw Mario, and it works okay. I tried to draw Mario, and I got almost Mario.
Interesting.
But the song is stuck in my head, so I figured it should be stuck in your head, too, much like GGG.
Did you get GGG stuck in your head yet?
No, but I got this Mario song stuck in my head.
Have you watched the GGG?
Yes, once, and I've never watched it again.
Why don't you watch it again?
Because I don't want to get it stuck in my head.
But the girls are real hot.
I've still got the Tetris song stuck in my head. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Every day at work, I'm sitting there like, pointless work for pointless. Anyway.
No, because it rings true.
So my other thing of the day, the reason I give two is that you may not want to click on the second one. This is disturbing, but it's not disturbing because of any graphicness or sex or like ultra violence or any of the things you'd expect. It's disturbing in a Jesus Christ kind of way. A bunch of people in the forum were talking about Flash games, and I saw someone say like, oh man, I played Covetous. And I was like, Covetous? Little Flash game? All right, whatever. I'm game. I'll play it. And I'm about to go to bed. I sit down. I play this little Flash game. It's like a minute long. Jesus fucking Christ.
It's weird. I don't know.
It's just, you got to admit, it is disturbing. It is not scary, but it is disturbing.
I wasn't really disturbed. I was just like, oh, weird internet game.
And it has this it's an idea where you have a game where ostensibly your utility is to win the game. So the game presents you with this very simple challenge. You can't lose at this game. And yet, going through the challenge will make something horrible happen. But yet you're obligated to go through it as the player, which makes an almost more visceral response than had a similar thing been made as an animation or a movie. It's much like Passage. It's proof that games are art on a fundamental level for anyone who's stupid enough not to believe that yet.
I think you're heaping too much high praise in this little crappy Flash game.
Because it was really weird. And also, our friend Conrad, he was working late, so he was like, what's that creepy Flash game you mentioned? I'm like, Covetous. And 2 minutes later, he messaged me with the exact words, Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay. So anyway, the holidays are coming, right? I mean, Black Friday is this Friday. So I was thinking, hey, we should have a Geeknights gift guide. But there's a problem with that. That would require effort on our part to make a gift guide. So,
well, I don't want anything.
Me either.
I mean, the things I want. a Miata, a beach house,
a garage to put it in. Otherwise, keep the car, right? But apparently, right, Boing Boing put up a gift guide. And the Boing Boing gift guide is 90% identical to the Geeknights gift guide.
Oh, really?
What the Geeknights gift guide would be.
The Geeknights gift guide. I like that.
It includes such items as an Arduino, a big-ass tub of Lego, a copy of Minecraft,
Ooh.
a stylophone, which is basically a musical synthesizing device with a little stylus, right?
No bananagrams?
Bananagrams, remote control helicopter,
Though I gotta
and
admit,
something I did not know existed that is relevant to this episode, which is Pac-Man Moleskine. There's a special limited edition Pac-Man Moleskine.
are the pages different or just the outside?
I don't know. I think just the outside.
Couldn't I just put a sticker of Pac-Man on my Moleskine?
I think it comes with some Pac-Man stickers.
All right, not that bad.
Look at it. It's actually pretty It's got a lot of Pac-Man styling going on. It's not light on the Pac-Man. It's got a lot of fruits. Man, what's with the fruits? Bananagrams, Pac-Man fruits.
So before we get into the real stuff, we got the meta moment, which we've forgotten off and on lately.
There's one thing I've always wanted to include in the meta moment that I keep forgetting to include, and that is corrections of things we get wrong.
We never get anything wrong.
We get things wrong pretty much all the goddamn time,
do.
and we never remember. I want to, from now on, if we get something wrong, remind us 2 weeks afterwards, because if I get something wrong on a Tuesday, I want to correct it the next Tuesday episode. So remind us of the corrections to put in the meta moment when we get things wrong.
You might have to remind us repeatedly because we are also very forgetful.
Yeah, it's like I'll remember I got it wrong, but I'll forget to put it in the meta moment. So that's meta number 1. Meta number 2, Magfest.
We're going to be at Magfest. We're part of the Mag 9. We're doing one panel, and we're sitting out a bunch of other panels.
Yep.
The rest of the time, you will find me halfway to completely ragingly drunk, wandering around being awesome.
You'll find me playing fidget games and board games.
We will likely be at Anime Boston. We will definitely be at PAX East doing 2-3 panels, give or take.
We'll see.
Playing Bananagrams.
There's a Nerd NYC recess that's the same weekend as Magfest, so we're not going to that.
No, we're not going to that. Nah.
And Thanksgiving, send me your cornucopias.
And
nobody has sent me a cornucopia yet.
Last but not least, the book club look was Max Brooks' World War Z. We're done with it. We're going to do the show real soon. So if you haven't read it yet,
hurry up.
Read.
I still have to read.
The book sucks.
I'm still only a third of the way through. I got to read.
Don't read it. If you haven't read it by now, you're not going to like my review.
Don't. You suck.
It's a terrible book.
How can anyone believe that our review is fair and unbiased?
Because I was very open to this book until I read it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Anyway. Nobody's going to believe you if you act that way.
Act what way? Being honest about what I believe?
No, being all...
Honest?
It gives it an impression of prejudice. Ask anybody.
By being completely honest?
No.
100%. So you're saying I'm not being honest, that I secretly like this god-awful book?
No. I'm just saying.
So you're not denying that the book is god-awful?
I'm not saying either way. What I'm saying is that
the book is god-awful.
People will believe that you were knocking it before trying it.
But I read it a while ago. I finished
just saying that it's going to be difficult to convince people otherwise.
In fact, so what if I waited until the show and then said the same thing, that it was awful?
People will believe it.
I don't think so.
I think they would.
I think anyone who likes these zombie books is going to hate us no matter what after that review.
We'll see.
So, Pac-Man.
Oh, Pac-Man. We had another more meta, though. There's too much meta.
What other meta do we have?
That, just in time for Black Friday, for all your shopping needs, despite the lack of a Geeknights gift guide.
All right. The Geeknights store went live as of Sunday, and no one noticed.
One person just noticed, and they were complaining that we don't ship to Canada. Do we ship to Canada?
I ship to wherever Google will ship. If Google won't ship to you, I'm sorry.
No, well, how can we fix that? We'll look into it.
I don't know. I set it up to go to anywhere that Google checkout will let it go.
All right.
Maybe because I only set up USPS as a thing, because that was the only one that worked.
But the USPS ships to Canada.
Yes, I don't know.
I don't know either. So yeah, if you want a Geeknights t-shirt.
We currently only have one t-shirt design. It's the old one. Once we sell out, we'll have to order more.
We're going to have to order more. Did you actually put in the inventory in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so it will sell out.
I don't think anyone cares about the inside stuff we've got. I don't know.
I just want to make sure that it'll say sold out when it's sold out.
Yeah,
and it won't
to a
keep
degree.
taking orders when we don't have any more.
No, it all works. The listeners don't care about all the back end stuff. Why even put this in the meta?
I just want to make sure that we don't get like 1,000 orders in for shirts we don't have, and then people
I
are
don't
gonna
think
wait
we're gonna
too
get
long.
1,000 orders.
It could happen.
I have a feeling there are about 2 people who are gonna order a T-shirt in the next few weeks.
It can happen here.
Also, I point out you could have just asked me that anytime.
I wanted to see if for people to see what to make sure that they're not waiting. If people might think that they're going to be waiting for a long time if we don't have enough shirts.
Okay.
That's for their benefit.
So Pac-Man Championship Edition DX.
Well, all Pac-Mans. I want to do we haven't done any show on any Pac-Man, so I want to talk about all Pac-Mans. But the reason that we came up with the idea to talk about Pac-Mans is because of Pac-Man Championship Edition DX, which is the awesome.
I don't, however, want to bother talking about the history of Pac-Man or anything. I just want to talk about Pac-Man as games.
Yeah, we don't need to, you can look at the history of Pac-Man
And
freaking
only
Wikipedia.
canonical real Pac-Man games. I don't want to talk about Pac-Man Jr.
But that's a real Pac-Man game.
It's not a good game.
How about Pac-Man World 2?
I never played the Pac-Man World 2.
It's right over there. You have a copy of it on your shelf.
How the fuck did that get there? Seriously, I thought I threw that away.
There it is.
Oh my god. That is perhaps the worst game I've ever seen.
It's not that. It's not.
Custer's Revenge is at least a game.
No, listen, this worst games. How is it compared to E.T.?
You know what? E.T., not that bad.
Oh, I see you come around on that one.
E.T. is the worst game I've beaten.
Anyway, so Pac-Man Championship Edition DX, right, is basically the idea here is they wanted to make a Pac-Man game for the 360, but they wanted it to be like big, and have championshipness. And if they just went with regular old they had to come up with some spin on Pac-Man. So the spin they came up with is have a fucking ton of ghosts. And the thing with having a ton of ghosts is that the old maps don't work. So they came up with all new maps.
Also, the old fundamental game mechanics don't work that well.
No. I mean, the original Pac-Man is mostly, once you've figured it out, once you know how to avoid the ghosts and you know how to clear the board, it just gets faster, so your reflexes need to improve. But
the power pills last less long.
Those power pills last less long, so you need to be more accurate in getting the ghosts right next to you when you get the power pill. And other than that, though, once you've maxed the game out, you've maxed it out, right?
I mean, as a kid,
at that point, once it's maxed out, it's just endurance.
Like, as a kid on the Atari, I'd play Ms. Pac-Man all the goddamn time. It was 7800, so it was a real Pac-Man. It wasn't like that abortion that was the 2600 Pac-Man.
The first game system I ever had was 2600, and the first video games I ever played were 2600. So I actually sadly thought that 2600 Pac-Man was the Pac-Man.
Oh my god, Scott, I never knew.
For a long time.
That's really sad.
Like when I was 3, that was like the only game I played, and I had such a poor understanding when I was that young that I would just start the game and I would set it on level 8 because I didn't realize I would just start at level 1. Just, because you could pick any level to start at. And I didn't realize, I didn't fully comprehend, much like I didn't fully comprehend drawing in the lines, right? That I was supposed to get all the dots. It wasn't all there in the early days.
Even when I was older, when I was 8 or 9, I would play games, not necessarily Pac-Man, but more complex games, where I realized, looking back, I wasn't good at them because I wasn't actually trying to win. I was just kind of dicking around in these games.
Yeah, I didn't, so at least this is when I was 3 or 4, right? I was real little, not fully getting the Pac-Man, but I was playing it.
But my trouble with Ms. Pac-Man and then Pac-Man in the arcade and everything was that very rarely would I die. Me not having the skill to continue going would not stop me. What would stop me is that it's been 45 goddamn minutes and I'm bored.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I prefer games like, say, Galaga, where you're going to die. It's you're going to die.
Well, this is why I'm not impressed much with the Twin Galaxies records or any of that sort of stuff. And this is why Pac-Man fundamentally wouldn't have worked as a modern game, because basically the skill cap is actually, other than going for endurance and perfection, relatively low. And these ultra high scores are just a matter of patience.
And practice.
Patience and practice, but mostly patience and endurance of just being willing to sit there forever. I once played Dig Dug for 3 hours, and then I just got sick of it and turned it off.
Yeah, not like Kaboom, right? Where it just gets faster and faster and faster and faster, and you're gonna lose at some point.
Yeah,
even if you're really good.
You can max it out, and then it does, and then you can just max out the score completely. I just never got that good.
No, but I mean, look at for the perfect example of endurance, right? Look at the guy who has the high score for asteroids. He had his own asteroids machine, and he videotaped himself, which is a legitimate way of getting a Twin Galaxies score. And he basically played so well that he would get a zillion extra lives, and then he would go to the bathroom, he'd eat lunch, and the game would just sit there. And in asteroids, you don't die that often because the asteroids move kind of slow. So if you just beat a level and then you sit still in the middle, you might get hit a couple times, but if you just got 10 lives, you're not going to lose them all, And this guy would get enough lives to go off the board because that's how the scoring mechanism works, You can get just tons and tons of extra lives. And then he would just come back when he was ready and rack up a zillion more extra lives and a zillion more points, and then go about his daily business.
Now, it's basically a fundamental design flaw of any competitive game where you can reach a point where like all players are relatively equal, and it comes down to something like endurance or time, especially in video games when there's nothing to differentiate the high-level players quickly.
Yeah, or like you can have the same problem as Pitfall, right? Where basically Pitfall, you finish it, you get all the treasures. So people basically end up playing, a perfect or near perfect Pitfall, and then that's it. So there's like X number of guys in the world who can pretty much beat Pitfall almost or completely perfectly, and there's no way to differentiate between them because they all hit max at the game.
I mean, the only way to do it is whoever did it first.
Yes. However, Pac-Man Championship Edition DX has solved this problem. They've taken the basic mechanics of Pac-Man. Eat all the dots. Power pills let you eat ghosts. Ghosts try to chase Pac-Man.
Bombs?
There's a maze.
Wait, those are new.
The bombs are new. You push a bomb and all the ghosts go back to the middle, but you only have a limited number of them.
I found that I have infinite of them because I get them so frequently.
Yeah, well, it depends. Like, if you're doing a time trial mode, which is the mode I actually like the most, you only get so many bombs, and you're probably not... In the way to get more bombs is to eat ghosts that are carrying them, right? So... you're not likely to eat a lot of ghosts because that takes time away.
Yeah, well,
time trial.
I have less now. I play on expert all the time now, so you only get 3 bombs on expert.
Yeah. But yeah, the way the game works basically is each level, each course has sort of a pattern to it, and some of them, the pattern's sort of easy and obvious. Like in the first course is Challenge 2. I don't know why Challenge 2 is the first course and Challenge 1 is harder, but whatever.
Don't you recognize Challenge 1? Okay, never mind.
Anyway, but Challenge 2, right? You just basically go to where the fruit is and then follow the dots. And then a fruit appears and you go for that fruit and you follow the dots, and that's the pattern. But saying Challenge 1, it's much more difficult to follow the pattern.
Well, plus even the simple pattern. This is brilliant. So, all right, you're following the pattern. You're doing good. You cock up once, and suddenly you're all over the place now, running from ghosts, hitting bombs.
Yeah, you got to get back in that pattern. Also, even when the pattern is obvious, right? It's like, oh, I'll follow this pattern. There's also the mechanic of waking up the ghosts, right? There's sleeping ghosts around the map, and if you go near them, they wake up, and they join this chain gang of ghosts that is chasing you down.
Which is the crux of the game. This is a game, and the first time I played it, I'm like, this is fun, and then suddenly I was like, wait a minute. If I get a power pill, and then I ate like 200 ghosts.
I think it actually maxes out, because I reached a point where I had a huge chain of ghosts, and I would wake up more ghosts from their sleep, and they would just sort of fly off the screen. I was watching them, and I was like, oh, they're not even joining the pack, because this pack is so big.
Well, one, it depends on like when you grab fruit, and more importantly, are you doing the ghost challenge or just in the normal game?
That's true. It's like, because there's different modes, right? And there's the score mode, which is play for X minutes, get the highest score you can.
Brilliant. The fact that it's minutes as opposed to lives.
Yep.
Because that makes this game ripe for direct competition.
Of course, you do have lives.
Yeah, you do. But
it's much better for competitive purposes. Get the most points you can in 5 minutes, get the most points you can in 10 minutes.
A tournament in this is basically like what the Wizard should have been.
Yep. Then there's ghost combo mode. The only thing that matters is what's your biggest ghost combo. And that's it.
It gives you like 10 minutes, but you basically hit select and end as soon as you've gotten your big combo.
Yep. And then there's time trial mode, which is the mode I like. And that is get X fruits as fast as you can.
And it's actually really cool how it does it, because you have to do like 10 courses of varying difficulty, and then your aggregate times are what puts you in the leaderboard.
Yeah. And the thing is, it adds up, right? Every course has all these different modes. I mean, some of the courses have different modes, like the half track course only has time trial modes. It doesn't have any score modes.
My favorite one so far was the dungeon because it changes constantly.
I like the dungeon. I like the half track. I like the highway. I think the highway is the best designed one.
Highway is the most fun because I get to go really fast.
It lets you go off the edge and come around the other side a lot.
Yep.
But you know the thing is, I totally lost what I was thinking about. All right, it adds up your scores on your time trials and your high score mode and everything together, and it looks at your world ranking of all the players playing this game.
This is pretty much real time. Like every time I log in, it shows you've dropped X number, and I gotta get better scores to get up top.
Yeah, so you're competing against everyone in the world who's also playing this game, which is,
apparently is right now only like 30,000 people.
It's tens of thousands of people, right? So depending on which mode, like you can see, only like a few thousand people have actually played the darkness mode time trial all the way through. You know,
my overall worldwide ranking, like as of the last time I checked, which was last night, because it gives you the overall ranking aggregate of everything you've done, is like 1,002 out of 28,000, which isn't too bad.
I'm in the hundreds, I think, somewhere, and I'm basically
on individual ones, I'm all over the place. Some of them I'm in the double digits.
Yeah, some of them I'm no good, and some of them I'm like insanely good. So
it's amazing playing because sometimes I'll do a round, I think I did really badly, and then my rank is way low, or way high, I guess. Or I'll do one, I think I was doing awesome, then I look and I'm like at the bottom of the pack. I'm like, what?
What I really like is how the game really is true to its name of Championship Edition, right? A lot of games have the word Championship Edition, but this one really is Championship Edition. For example, let's say you do a time trial in 30 seconds, and you do the time you want to try it again to see if you can beat your time. When you get to 20 seconds, it starts counting down. 10, 9, 8. Like, there is no reason to play it unless you are going to beat your previous score. You know, it's pretty much the game is entirely focused on get the high score, improve, do better, become the best in the world, get an S rank and everything. Go. And that is the only focus of this game.
This game has to be at some point of the Omegathon because it's too perfect for that.
Yeah, I only wish there was some sort of multiplayer or even co-op mode. There's two of you working together, get the highest score as a team. That would be off the hook.
Well, we do have the other Pac-Man game that was delayed that's coming out.
Yeah, there is a game I saw at PAX that is coming out eventually, or at least it's a prototype or something, which is Pac-Man Battle Royale. And basically, Pac-Man Battle Royale is, a 4-player, everyone plays Pac-Man at the same time, and you can turn into a big Pac-Man and eat the other Pac-Mans. Pac-Man Verse, which, did we ever talk about that on the show?
I don't know, but it's one of the most brilliant games ever made. We talked
Pac-Man
about
Versus, that's the Miyamoto Pac-Man, right?
We talked about that at PAX in Egregiously Unrealized Potential.
That's true. So Pac-Man Verse, if you haven't ever heard of it or played it, it's a Pac-Man for the GameCube, and the way you have to play it is you need one Game Boy Advance connected to the GameCube, and you need 3 GameCube controllers, I believe, right?
Yes.
And one person with the Game Boy Game Boy Advance looks at the screen on the Game Boy Advance, and on that screen, they play regular old Pac-Man, like straight up. But the other 3 people with the GameCube controllers look at the television, and on the television, they're playing I'm a Ghost, Eat Pac-Man.
And I can only see the area directly around me.
Yeah, and if you eat a fruit, you can get a slightly bigger view. But the person playing who's Pac-Man can see the whole map.
I'm so goddamn good at that game.
The game is really, really good. But what Pac-Man Battle Royale is everyone is Pac-Man, and there's ghosts, and you're trying to get the high score and beat everyone else, right? And they're still working on that game, but it looks promising, at least.
But in terms of the experience of playing this new Pac-Man, it is intense. The music is pumping. The style.
Oh, it's got the best fucking music.
The style is off the hook,
too.
it's
got the best fucking style.
Like, the game is just
so styling.
It is amazing that this is a true and proper sequel to Pac-Man. You could basically call this Pac-Man 2.
I think there was a Pac-Man 2, wasn't there?
No, this is now Pac-Man 2.
This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is the Pac-Man that matters for the modern day, right? The old Pac-Man is an important historical artifact. You should probably play it sometimes, learn about it, get good at it if you must. But if you really want to care about Pac-Man in the year 2010, it's Pac-Man CEDX. That is the Pac-Man to pay attention to. One person did point out, though, that it's an Xbox 360 game. I don't think it's out for any other systems. It might be, but I don't think so. At least the world rankings aren't. They're definitely not.
Well, I just realized how sad that is for Nintendo.
The world rankings are definitely not including anything but the Xbox 360. So you're probably not going up against too many Japanese people, which is why we're able to get such high scores compared to this. granted, it is strange that like the World Championships, all these twin galaxies are very U.S. centric in terms of the Donkey Kongs and the Pac-Mans. The Japanese people might dominate at the fighting games and that sort of thing, but
maybe they're not willing to stand there for 40 hours playing a boring game that they've already solved.
They're not really dominating at these old school, games. At least as far as I know. I think I blame it. I'm just gonna pull this right out.
No.
I blame it on the fact that they're mostly concentrating on the no-skill RPG games.
No, that's a burn.
It is a burn, but they are good at the fighting games.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about Japan or just Asia in general, because what about South Korea?
I was saying South Korea is not the same.
Yeah, but they got the RTSs.
I was only talking about Japan.
Yep. I don't know. I think America might have more to do with the fact that the games were the focus of our culture. Like, the games themselves were the cultural focus. Where in Japan, I think in the long run, the characters and the nostalgia became more the focus.
Oh, Pac-Man Fever? That was from America.
It was, but the focus of fandom was still on playing the games in the arcades, and then arcade culture died. But Japan still has arcade culture, so maybe rather than thinking back fondly on the games that were in arcades, people are still in arcades.
I also think that part of it was... there was a significant difference between our arcade culture and Japan's arcade culture, right?
Well, theirs was like I love those sets that had like two opposite side screens and you'd fight with each other. That was awesome.
Well, Virtual On, but it was sort of, Virtual On was sideways.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right, is if you look, it's like, it's sort of a weird thing because look around at the arcade cabinets in the arcade, right? An old school arcade. And a lot of them are Japanese, most in fact. You got the Namcos and the Konamis and all that, right? But Pong was totally a U.S. thing, right? So I think what happened is we had this old school arcade culture that's, this old retro, thing that, has a large place in the U.S. because of Pong, right? And the games that followed, including the ones that came from Japan, like Pac-Man. In Japan, because arcades actually stuck around, they're not a retro thing. They're a constant thing, even though they might be, from what I hear, diminishing, right? And as a result, the old goes out and the new comes in. Here, the old went out and no new came in. So Pac-Man is still pretty much like, top tier arcade stuff in the U.S. because we didn't really replace it. Whereas Pac-Man over there is like, it's old because now they're playing Street Fighter. They replaced it and stuff.
But at least all that aside, this game is fucking awesome.
Yeah, you got to play Pac-Man CE DX, You have any other, like, Pac-Man memories? I know that when I was a kid, I had this vinyl record that had, like, a Pac-Man story and possibly some music on it.
I vaguely recall a Pac-Man cartoon, but it was terrible.
I think the vinyl record was related to the cartoon.
I mean, really, Ms. Pac-Man was my game because I had the Atari 7800. I had Ms. Pac-Man.
Yeah, the 7800 had the real, Pac-Man
I played
going.
the ever-living crap out of that game as a kid. And it's amazing because a lot of games that I think, oh, I'll practice and get good, like Street Fighter. I mean, fighting games didn't appear until I was much older, and I did not try to get good at them as a kid. I didn't practice, and it shows today. Like, I play Super Street Fighter, despite all my trying and practicing, not so good. And yet, finally, Pac-Man makes a comeback, a game I played the fuck out of, and I'm pretty goddamn awesome at it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, I played that Pac-Man on the 2600, but then the 2600 broke. So I didn't really play it when I was older, so I didn't get good at it. And then not that it mattered getting good at 2600 Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And then I mostly played NES, and I wasn't about to buy Pac-Man for the NES, even though it did exist. Why would you buy Pac-Man for the NES, right?
Of course, back when I had an NES, you know where I'd play Pac-Man? Arcades.
Yeah, the thing is, even in arcades, by that time, I was playing, like, Ninja Turtles and X-Men, and, that's...
I'd alternate. I'd play the
beat
'em up.
I played a Pac-Man once in a while in the arcade. I didn't avoid it entirely, but I wasn't throwing quarters into it to actually get any good or any memories or any experience.
See, I'd throw quarters in because it was the only game that was 1 quarter.
That's pretty much what I would do, is I would basically play all the 2-quarter games, and then at the very end of the day, when I had 1 quarter left, I played 1 round of Pac-Man and I left.
And later on, before things ended, remember those pseudo 3D hologram-looking Sega games that were like, you're a cowboy, don't die?
Yeah.
Those are a quarter. I played the crap out of those, too.
Really? Those would be like $1 where I was, because of a fancy hologram.
They were a quarter because no one liked them anymore.
That was way later, yeah.
Yeah, when people realized they're actually kind of terrible.
Well, all those things was a TV with a mirror and a dome.
Yeah, but it looked good.
It looked all right.
Because it was just video. It was basically Dragon's Lair.
Yes, basically. There was a fighting game though that was in that thing.
There was, and there was always a line for that, and that one was still $1.
It was
I never played
it. Was a
it.
terrible game.
Yeah, there was always a crazy line for it.
If you're gonna play that, you might as well have played like Killer Instinct, where you can just type in a combo and walk away from the game. Even though I could never do that, other people could.
The longest lines I ever saw were to this day for Mortal Kombat 3.
I saw the longest lines from Mortal Kombat 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and that was the big ones and where I came from. Anyway, any other Pac-Man's notes?
No, I think I'm petering out. I love this game. Pac-Man is back, and I feel like I should
Also,
buy...
I just want to say I love Pac-Man's style in general. Not so much Pac-Man himself was kind of doofy, but the ghosts, right? Clyde, watch out.
So what's your... I don't even remember the names, but what's your favorite style in the game?
Inky, Pinky, Blinky, and Clyde.
Because, like, there's styles ranging from, like, a Lego-looking thing to a retro thing to, like, line art.
I like the style. I leave it on the default style for each level.
Yep.
But I like the one that's in Challenge 2, the first one, and
Yep.
I like the dungeon one.
The dungeon one's the ultra retro one.
Yeah, and the half one is all right.
In fact, the dungeon one's almost more retro than is possible. Like, it's worse than the original Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Which makes it kind of endearing in a Minecraft kind of way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Minecraft.
The music is just... I feel like we could do a whole panel at, like, a PAX that was just music in games and how very few games have gotten it right of making music.
Let's see, games that have done it right. Tribes 2.
Wait.
Doom.
Wait. Done it right? Because there's different ways to do it right.
Tribes 2, Doom, Mega Man, Zelda, Pac-Man, CEDX.
We're talking about the kind of music that pumps you up and keeps you pumped up.
Yeah.
Because Doom 2 and Doom had some of the best music for them. And Tribes 2, just because Tribes, remember, had that dynamic music where depending on what was going on around you in the game, the music would change.
Mostly what it would do is it would just choose whether it should restart the track or increase the volume or decrease the volume.
No,
it wasn't that dynamic.
No, it was more dynamic than you remember. It would add loops as, like, if you got into a firefight with someone or your health was low, it would add loops.
Uh-huh.
And in the beginning, I mean, remember, it would play the normal music, and then it added
when it was loading, that was pretty much the key. Is all the songs in Tribes 2 were designed such that they would start while the loading screen was there.
And then you hit the ground
and
running.
They would slowly build up, and then as soon as the game started, that would be like the go, go, go part of the
You're
song.
You're just sitting there like, yeah, come on, yeah,
It'd be like you're sitting there while it's loading. It's like,
I mean, meanwhile, even Counter-Strike today, great game, when I'm dead and I'm waiting for my next round, I'm not sitting there going, yeah, come on, yeah. I'm just sitting there going,
Yeah, when Tribes 2 is loading, it'd be like, and then as soon as the game started, it'd be like, oh, it was awesome. And Pac-Man does the same thing. This new Pac-Man.
I sweat a lot playing this Pac-Man
The thing is, the original Pac-Man, right? Think about the music in the original Pac-Man. It was basically wee 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 wee. And how was that not annoying as all hell?
It was annoying. I turned the music down. I basically muted it every time I played him as Pac-Man.
Really?
It's
so weird because if you just listen to that wee wee on its own, you're like, shut it off, God. But if I actually go to an arcade machine and play Pac-Man, the wee wee doesn't bother me. I don't know what it is.
Dude, if we ever do a panel on game music, we gotta have a clip of that and just play it in the background for like 5 minutes while we're doing the panel.
No, that would just piss people off.
It would make a good point. Talk about, games you guys love. Didn't they all have great music? Remember Pac-Man? Cheetah Man?
It's just a siren. I would like to know, because there's always those fun facts about old games, right? What made them choose that siren as the Pac-Man noise? And what made them, I can understand the waka 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 waka.
Well, Pac-Man was originally Puck-Man.
I know that, but that has nothing to do with the siren or the waka waka waka. I want to know where the siren and the waka waka came from. And also the wee 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 when you died.
That's a generic sounding death sound.
Yeah, but they came up with it, right? So who came up?
I'm pretty sure games before Pac-Man had similar death sounds.
But who came up with that particular sound and when he was working on it?
I don't know. It's like asking a Foley artist, like, all right, in this movie, what made you think to make the claws sound just like this? It's like, I don't know. I took a watermelon, I shot it, and then
Yeah, but, for other things, people do have, there's origin stories of interesting
I made
things.
some sound effects for some people's games at RIT, just for my music classes, and I basically just made like whatever. I just fucked
You
around.
should use my thing of the day from a couple of weeks ago, the FS6
yes,
or whatever it
yes,
is.
I should have used that in 2003.
Yeah.
I basically just dicked around in a synthesizer. Then I was like, all right, that sounds good. That's the death sound. Whatever. It was just a random sound that I thought sounded cool. There was no rhyme or reason at all. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.